I only work with women over 35 and just mainly repair their metabolism, trying to help really teach them how to do this on your own. And I don't focus on the how, I focus on sharing the data with you. So a typical journey with working with me looks like this.
Welcome back to another episode of the Peak Performance Life podcast. Today, I am very excited to have an expert on a very, very important topic that is really not talked about a whole lot. In fact, I was just thinking that in almost 200 episodes recorded, we've only heard this mentioned a couple of times. And so we have on the line with us Heather Deba. She's a metabolic nutrition coach. That's the key word there, metabolic, that we're going to get into, that a lot of people really don't fully understand. And one thing that she helps women do is regain control of their metabolism and achieve their ideal weight. Now, this concept also applies to men, although Heather does specialize in working with women. And so what people don't understand is you can actually reverse your metabolism in as little as 30 days, so you can turn your body into a fat-burning machine without having to dramatically cut calories or be living in the gym. And so if you've ever thought, hey, maybe I could actually eat more and eat a healthy diet and actually lose weight, then this episode is for you. So Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Talor. And that was a great introduction, by the way. And this topic has really, what I do is not very well mentioned. It doesn't frequently mentioned by coaches. But the word metabolism gets thrown around nowadays everywhere because that's, what's attracting to women, to men, and thinking about that's the thing they need to fix. But rarely you actually see coaches really increase their caloric intake and increase women's metabolic rate, which actually creates the different kind of caloric deficit. And we can dive into all of that, but that's really in a nutshell, you did a really great job explaining it.
Yeah, please, let's dive into that. What are some of the misconceptions, or what is it that people don't quite understand? Because many people have heard, for example, the Biggest Loser thing where they just drastically cut calories, but then because that something to the effect of they reset their metabolism to this lower rate. And then when they change, they gain the weight back. And you hear about all these kind of crash diets that work in the short term, but not in the long term, and can actually cause dysfunction. So maybe tell us about some of the wrong ways that people are going about this and what's a better approach maybe.
Yeah, that's a great question. Speaking of The Biggest Loser, and a lot of people remember that show. It's actually really interesting. There was a study done actually back quite a few years back. I can't remember exactly what year, but it was done where the Biggest Loser contestants end up gaining all of their weight back, if not more, years later. This study had shown their metabolic rate on average, all the contestants have dropped by 500 calories, men or women, and they never regained that 500 calories back. So it is really great phenomenon, and we can talk about it for sure. But before I give you the answer to your question, this will make a whole lot more sense. And if I go back a little bit more, okay? Great. So I think every man, woman, especially women over the age of 35, which is kind of my specialty, is where we all have done some kind of diets. We all went to the gym trying to lose weight. And the thing is, there's always a breakthrough moment where people say, when is enough enough? Right? And for me, it goes back when I was years ago. I came from China, born and raised there, and I came to the US and I gained 45 pounds in 8 months. And I was a teenager. And so supposedly I was supposed to have this really high metabolism, which I did. Over the years, my diet kind of restricted and really got me to at the point where I was eating 1,200 calories, 1,300 calories. That was my maintenance. Wow. So eating a cookie with my kids or grabbing an ice cream on a weekend is completely out question for me and for my lifestyle at the time. And what's really interesting is that it was so hard for me to maintain. And I was eating so little, but at the same time, I was eating, like I was looking fluffy. Like you have that, belly women talk about, the love handle, right? So I never understood why until one day, I remember my husband came home early and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm a busy mom. I was going to just pick up my kids in an hour. I was going to just relax. And I grabbed a bag of chips, cookie, climbed into bed, turned on my show. I was like, I'm just going to breathe for a moment. And then I heard our garage door opening and my husband came home early. And I literally ran and hid all of my stuff, my chip wrappers, and I was like threw my half-eaten cookie in the trash can as if I was doing something really, really wrong. And that night I was thinking, why did I do that? I was really ashamed of who I was. And I was ashamed of eating that little small bag of chips and a little bit cookie and trying to enjoy myself. And that's when I realized, I'm like, this is not the life I wanted. This is not what I signed up for. I don't want to keep on restricting, but I didn't know how. And then from there, I really went into a rabbit hole of researching and learning and all of those things where I learned how to regain control of your metabolism. And to make a long story short, and that's what I do every day now for women, where I raise people's metabolism. And I was able to lose 10 pounds within the first 2 months, eating from 1,300 calories to 2,400 calories, 10 pounds at the same time. And then from there, I not only lost all of my weight, I was able to maintain 4 years. So that's the results I want women to have. And so all of those, everyone has a breaking through moment, the hiding chip moment. May not be hiding chip wrappers, but a moment that we say enough is enough, right? But to understand that, a couple of things we really need to cover. First of all is goals we're setting. And most women, most men actually, is goal setting is, I think fundamentally is backwards in our society. Here's why. Most women I talk to says, hey, Heather, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, that's my goal. I said, okay, 20 pounds. What have you done to do that? And so what people tell me, I'm asking questions backwards, is because I want to see what really get to the why, right? And the why to the how, to the mechanism of the things that they do really is determined by why that goal and by why those actions are chosen. So let's think about this, 20 pounds. If I want to lose 20 pounds, most people say caloric deficit. Okay, now step backwards. How do we create a deficit? Few things. Go to the gym, burn more calories, right? Very typical. Cut your carbs out or fats or anything out. Intermittent fasting. Any sort of diet is creating that deficit, right? So now what happens when you create deficit goes back to the biggest loser is I want you to think about your metabolism is like a budget, an energy budget to your body. And if you compare that to money-making process, is this. When you make more money, you will budget more. You will buy a bigger house, you'll buy a better car, you send your kids to private schools, and then that's how your life started changing. You start having a bigger budget, correct? Now, to have a lower, like when you lose that income, especially drastically, what happens to your budget? It changes in a couple of phases. The first phase is, oh my gosh, I'm going to find another job. But meanwhile, let me keep on paying my bills, keep on sending my kids to private schools, and keep on paying my car payments, credit card bills. I'll be able to do that. So you dip into your savings, meanwhile looking for another job. But what if you can't do that in 2 months? If the economy just crashed like 2007, then you can't find a job for 6 months. Then what do you do? The most logical thing is to lower your budget, cut out all the unnecessary expenses. And right now you're freaking out, aren't you? Just thinking about this makes me nervous. I don't know if anyone listening to this, it creates a huge amount of fear. So now what happens? You lower your budget to adapt. And if you can't find another job in a year, you'll lose your house, right? Your car can be towed away. You will start racking up a lot of credit card debt. Then your entire life can crumble in front of your eyes. But here's the thing, but guess what? You will hold on to every penny, every dollar that you ever make, and you probably will not spending anything in your savings if you don't absolutely have to, right? So now think about that goes into your body. When we go into a caloric deficit, we lose that income that your body needs. Yeah. So now at the first couple months, people lose weight pretty quickly because the body fat is your deposit, is your savings of your energy. Especially if anyone in their 30s and 40s, and you may not remember exactly how your first weight loss journey went, but if you really try to think hard, I promise you the first time is pretty quick, pretty easy. You don't have to make a lot of adjustments. But eventually, after you've done it a couple times or done it drastically, your metabolism adapts. It's called metabolic adaptation. So it adapts to the lower caloric intake that you have been feeding your body. And now your body is holding on to every single calorie that is extra. And now it deposits and makes the next weight loss a lot harder. Because your body doesn't necessarily have this mind of its own. In a way it does, but not on its own, it's going to repair. Hence, therefore, the biggest loser contestants, they lost a lot of weight, but they could never really regain that 500 calorie loss in their metabolism. So here is what I mean by we're setting the entire goals wrong. Yes, lose weight is to, get into deficit, but getting a deficit, the way most people go about it is backwards.
This is great stuff. I really like that we're talking about this. Not a lot of people are talking about this. Now, it also leads to a lot of questions, right? How do I know? Is there a way to tell what your metabolic rate is at any moment in time? I guess let me start with that question.
Yes. So here are a couple things you can do. A lot of my clients have done, there are absolutely testings that you can purchase and buy and go to facilities and do. A lot of them is very highly inaccurate. Now, if you have your Apple Watch or maybe your Oura Ring or maybe any kind of devices that wearable devices, those things are extremely, extremely inaccurate. So I would say ignore that data. Okay. 100% of the times they're wrong. I wouldn't say 100, but very, very rarely I would get a case where people come in is like, okay, that was actually pretty accurate. Now, you can spend a couple $1,000s and get that testing done. Or here's what I do for free. So if you're listening, and this is going to get some of your listeners are very nervous and just get them a little, antsy. So here's what you should do. It's very uncomfortable. Track every bite that you eat. Every single bite for 10 days. Most people do not want to track. And when I'm saying track, I really mean collecting data. So if you go get those expensive testings done, all those machines are doing is also collecting data.
Right.
Of your CO2 output, your oxygen input, right? And how your body perform during high stress, which is in a high cardio setting, and how quickly you recover, how much that output is when you're resting. So all of those combined, but you can do this at home.
Yes.
Track everything you eat. Now, this is your input, right? You have to have data. You have to have a baseline. We're not talking about general population, women at 35 with very minimal, activity level and how much you weigh, and this is your metabolic rate. So track your food, and then on top of that, this is going to challenge your mental kind of capacity, is weigh yourself every single morning. And this will, doing that 10 days to 14 days, I really highly recommend 14 days. If you don't know what you're looking for, if you have an expert like me or my coaches, and we look at women's body, we need, 5 to 7 days. But if you don't know what you're looking for, the longer you can do it, more data you have, the more trend you'll be able to see. Now, 14 days is minimum. If you can track for like 20 days to a month, it's even better. So then what you do is look at your weight. Your weight is going to fluctuate up and down. And now you're going to see how your weight trends given the food you eat. Do not change drastically about what you eat, because most women do is they track their food. They're like, oh my gosh, I did not know this cookie has 300 calories in it, right? And so they intentionally not eat that cookie. Now then you're collecting false data. So the data should be not changing how you eat, not changing how you live for that period of time, and see what your body does. And if your body weight overall is maintaining, that means take your average caloric intake out of those days, and that is your current metabolic rate in calorie senses.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense that you should create your own baseline. And we have seen, obviously, a lot of these devices be way off, and there's not even, at least not that I know of, a specific tracking device or wearable that tracks your metabolic rate specifically. So yeah, you create your own baseline. You're right. Probably though, when people start to actually track things, they might start changing. So that'll be the temptation, but try to just get a regular baseline first, and then you can go from there. So I'm sure people are thinking like, okay, everything I've ever heard about losing weight is I have to, caloric deficit, either eat less or exercise more or whatever. But I know this intuitively. I've seen this. I know when I started eating differently and started eating more nutrient dense foods and cutting out processed and sugary foods, I can almost eat as much as I want. And if I do exercise as well, and obviously men are different than women. There's a lot of differences, but basically in my own personal story, I found that, if I eat healthy, satiating, good food, I can almost never really gain much weight if I stick with my same kind of thing. And so what's interesting about that is that, I'm not trying to cut calories. I'm not, I'm just in a good place metabolically, I feel like. So what are some of the keys then? Like clearly there are certain foods that are, more satiating or nutrient dense. Clearly there are, I don't know, if you're eating lots of carbs, you're going to tend to be more hungry than compared to if you're eating protein. Is there anything along those lines that is important for people to know about?
Well, that's a loaded question, but the short answer to that question, I'll explain here in a second, is there's no one single answer to that question.
Correct. Yeah.
So here is what I tell women. Here's when it comes to goal setting, back to, what we were talking about earlier. So goal setting is not just a number, right? I want to lose 20 pounds, 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. The goal should be, this is what I challenge every listener to really sit down and spend some time thinking. Okay. So here's the thing. What is my current lifestyle? What is my environment looks like? What is feasible and practical for me? Because here's the thing, Talora, while you are really into fitness, right? And, you value this a lot. The next client comes to me, say, I want a life-changing solution, but I don't share the same value as you do. Mm-hmm. I don't like to go to the gym. I don't want to eat clean all the time. If I eat clean, I literally get bored and I quit. That's what most people actually are, is they find solutions, whether it's Whole30, whether it's like the boot camps you go to, whether it's like keto, whatever it may be, it doesn't fit their lifestyle. So here's the questions I ask all of my clients. And I think everybody should ask themselves. Number one, how much time do I actually have to work on my nutrition? Because talking about weight loss, that happens in your kitchen. And everybody knows this. It's not happening in the gym, right? Mm-hmm. So how much time do I actually have? Here is an example. A couple months ago, I talked to a woman. She's now my client, but at the time when we were talking, and she said she had talked to about 4 to 5 coaching programs for weight loss, and she didn't join any of them. And I asked her why. She goes, Heather, I have 4 kids, 4 boys. They range from the age of 17 to 8, and all of them are in competitive sports. And my entire day is on the road. I don't have time to cook. I don't have time to track. I don't have time to do all those exercises and grocery shoppings and meal plannings like all those coaches are telling me to do. I will not be able to eat healthy, quote unquote, and clean for longer than maybe a week. And then I would throw the towel. That's why I didn't join any of them. Mm. That's her real limitation. And she said, Heather, here's the thing. I have a 8-year-old son. I have 10 years of this life, really. So am I supposed to just wait 10 years before I actually could do these things and live miserably and low energy? And then she homeschools too, on top of that, and working part-time.
Yeah.
And she literally said, I asked her, I said, how much time do you really have if we really sit down and think about it? And she goes, 10 minutes. And so then I had to work with her, making sure she can actually order out, pick up junk food, fast food if she has to. And that was her limitation. She would still be healthier, 40 pounds lighter, having more energy than what she's doing now, regardless. Now, the next person is completely different. Mm-hmm. I had a nutrition coach come to me and want to be coached because she had IBS. She knows how to exercise. She thought she knew how to eat. She has been teaching her students how to eat. Then she realized that's not how it was really supposed to be done. I actually taught her how to implement more complex food and not quite so clean. Her IBS was gone. So it really depends on each individual's health goals and their lifestyles. You really have to think about, what are my limitations? Is this realistic for me? And now if I do this, is this something I can do for the rest of my life? If answer is no to that question, this is absolutely not right thing to do.
That's absolutely
and if you're
right.
If you're going for a coach, somebody to help you, and which I highly recommend people to do, is that you have to ask that coach, what is it that you're going to do for me that I can do for the rest of my life to not make it complicated? Do not make me work more. Now, here's the thing. If you want to be doing triathlon or the Ironman, that's your goal for the next, in a year or so. Yeah, I'm sorry. The reality is you have to put a lot of work in. That could be an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's really what you want out of life. Now talking about food. So there's no right answer. You can eat chocolate. You can not eat chocolate. You can eat cookies. You don't have to eat cookies. You can eat clean. It's all about what makes you feel good. Mm-hmm. And then I got the question now, Heather, are we not supposed to eat those junk food? Ideally, yes, you're not supposed to. Ideally, yes, you should get up and move your body. Yes, ideally, you should get 8 hours sleep every night. Ideally, you should be drinking so much water. Ideally, you should be taking all those supplements. But how many people in our entire population can live that ideal life? I certainly can't. And you probably can't either. So you pick and choose what works for you. You would still be healthier you would still be healthier to lose that 20 pounds, reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, low pressure on your joints. You will still live 5 years longer than you would have now. So.
Yep. That's a great point. That's a really, really great point you just made. And, everyone has their own limitations. Everyone is doing the best that they can in the situation that they are. And another key point that you really made that I really love is that anything you do should be sustainable for the rest of your life. These crash diets and these things, like even if it's just the name diet, right? Which it's like diet almost implies that you're not going to do it forever, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the goal is finding something that you can stick to for the rest of your life. So kind of going back to then, would you just kind of looking at weight loss, right? And a lot of, especially women, will see like, okay, I want to lose weight now. They hit some breaking point. They say, I want to lose weight. And then like, I'm just going to cut 600 calories a day out of my diet or something, right? And that may actually be counterproductive. Is that right? Like you want to do these, from what my understanding is and some of the things I've heard you say before as well, it's like, you want to kind of take baby steps here and not these drastic cuts. Is that right?
Yes. So in a way, yes. And in a way, no. It really depends on how you have been eating and feeding your body. So this is what we look at when a client comes onto our program. And now, first of all, we look at their overall caloric intake. We look at their macronutrients intake. We look at how their body performs energy-wise. So that's just the three basic things we start off. So here's the thing. If you are coming on, which rarely we do have because my specialty is repair metabolism, most women are already eating very little and have done multiple diets. So most of my clients coming in eating 1,200, 900 calories to about 1,600 calories is very, very, very common. But occasionally I'll have a client that comes on eating above 3,000 calories. And from there, I say, well, if you have been eating that way, your body's not deprived. Think about money kind of situation right now, right? Mm-hmm. So she's just like having that budget, but she's depositing fat. So what we do is we take them down immediately. So take them down so they start losing weight. At the same time, we start rebuilding and ramp up and optimize metabolism. So when people think about repairing metabolism, it comes into has two different sides to it. Number one, it is raising the number of calories your body can burn. That's repair. Now, the other side is optimizing, meaning I don't have to take you down to a caloric intake, but there's a reason why. Here's the thing. I see this very common and very, very normal as well. I have people coming in and eating 1,800 calories. Well, it's not terrible. Like it's not too low. However, they've got this body fat on. They can't seem to shake it off. And they will just blindly cut calories down. So nothing happens. Now, what we do is we prime the body by feeding her very little more than what she's eating now and slowly training her body to burn more. Also finding out what is the primal combination of those macronutrients that her body requires. And now I know the next question in your head is probably, oh my gosh, Heather, so what is the magic number? Like what is the combo that is there a formula? The answer is no. There is never a actual formula. For every individual student that we actually work with is that we increase them. And if you think about a combination lock of your macronutrients, everybody has a different combination to unlock that. And with that combination, people can go from 2,000 calories to 2,700 calories and lose weight at the same time because their body's demand for protein, carbs, and fats are very different from the next person. So I
Someone
actually have,
listening, so I'm going to jump in because someone listening right now probably just heard that statement and they're saying, how is that possible? That can't be. How can someone increase their calories by 700 calories and still lose weight? What would you say to that person?
oh my gosh. Well, if you want to know, the easiest thing is to go on my social media. We can talk about this later and just look at the people's testimonials. But here's the thing. It is very, very, very possible. A lot of our diseases, actually, whether it's hypothyroidism or insulin resistance, those are metabolic disease, meaning it's really caused by food, and therefore you can reverse it by food. And doctors won't tell you that because they don't know how.
Right.
Right. And so this is really a phenomenon that's why I don't usually like to throw the metabolism word out, is because this word has been so overused in this industry, has been thrown around, especially in the past year or so. You can see every ad everywhere is like, oh, we're doing metabolism repair. We do this, we ramp up your repair, restore, all of those things. But nothing is truly restoring. So I'll tell you a story of mine, not mine, but a client of mine. So this woman talked to me on Halloween night years ago. And so she sat down with me. She goes, Heather, right now, tonight, I know I'm going to binge eat because my kid's going to have candy home and I will want to eat them. And she broke down and cried because every time she can't control herself, she eats them. And then she feels guilty afterwards. And she said to me, I don't think you can fix me. I've done many things before. I've spent over $15,000 on coaching programs before, all combined. I don't think you can fix me. It's not possible. So what we did is like, okay, how about this? I'll do this for you and I'll guarantee you a result. In this industry, like doctors, and you can't really guarantee results. Nobody really can, right? But here is the condition. You have to actually do the work. You're going to do what you promised you're going to do. So we did that. She did it for 6 months. She went from eating 1,600 calories to 2,750. Lost 30 pounds. And then what's the craziest thing about that is during our conversation, she goes, this was like probably about a year later after she had graduated. She reached out to me and she said, Heather, you wouldn't believe what happened. We went on a vacation to Disney World and we went on for like a week longer than that. We came back home. My husband gained 5 pounds and I thought my scale was broken when I stepped on it because I didn't gain anything. And she said, I can't thank you enough, because here is the thing that most people have this really belief system is because they have failed so many times. They have let down by different programs, different diets, and they put so much work in and they really did not receive the benefit of long term, which everyone is promising and telling them that they can. So it really goes back to, yes, you can, absolutely can. I've got this mom I was telling you about just a minute ago with 4 kids and all of that. She's eating now 3,000 calories.
Yep.
You absolutely can, no matter what your age is. I've coached women up to they're 75 years old and up to 2,700 calories for them, and they're losing weight. You absolutely can. Age does not play a factor, very, very small factor in this.
Yeah, I believe it. I've seen similar things myself. And I think for those who are wondering, like, what's the science? And by the way, for me as well, I think especially for a lot of women, obviously depends, on your weight and things like that. But a lot of women, I'm more concerned about undereating than I am overeating, right? A lot of people, you see this as well, that they don't want to eat too much. And then either they're not taking in enough, whether it be protein or just calories in general. And that could cause issues as well and this is a kind of maybe a question that I was getting at for you as well, is for people like me, maybe who wonder, what's the science behind this? How could it be, right? And this kind of stuff. I think sometimes it's like, there's a lot of things people don't understand, like hormones and, thyroid and things like that, where if it's not getting, when it gets the right nutrients, they operate at a much better efficiency and can perform the bodily functions a lot better. Is that what you would think if you had to kind of?
Yeah. So I have a very unpopular opinion about all of that.
Okay,
And
great. Let's hear it. I love that.
So here's the thing. When you talk about science, how our body functions hasn't really changed for hundreds of years and thousands. Well, it may not be thousands of years, but for at least the past couple hundred years, we have not changed. Now, the science of studying it, we have always, and I don't trust science. And just here's why. Not all science are bad. Science provides data, provides certain insights to certain things, right? But we have to really go back to what? Common sense. And if you don't believe me, go grab any item in your grocery store, and on the nutrition fact label underneath it, fine print, it always has this statement. This is based on a what? 2,000 calorie intake. Mm. This is regulated by the FDA, right? So you think the scientists, the government are dumb? This number is just taken out of hat, like out of nowhere? They know on average, an adult should be eating roughly around 2,000 calories. That's a safe number. That's an average. That's a median. And so all the scientists, there are studies, there are tons of studies contradicts that. There's tons of studies actually supports it. But there are very, very few scientists actually studies optimizing metabolism and metabolic adaptation, true metabolic adaptation. So if late night tonight, maybe you got this episode is running in your head and you're thinking about this and you want to do a research and get into the rabbit hole like me at night, then Google Kevin Hall. So this Dr. Kevin Hall is the only one that I've actually read their studies talking about metabolic adaptation, talking about what those biggest losers have done, right? So, but then if you research on metabolic repair, there's none. You can't find those studies. Every single studies talk about eating less, eating clean, going to the gym. But then aren't you already doing that? Haven't you done that? So I'm not a huge fan. And here's the thing. If information changes lives, then we shouldn't have any single person that is overweight here now, ever.
Right.
And information alone doesn't change that. So let's think about it. So if you have said, hey, I've studied a lot, I know a lot, I know this, but then why are you where you are? The problem is not lack of information. The problem is lack of implementation, and having the right strategies works for you. And nobody has ever studied your body. No one, including yourself. So the first place, do not go to scientists. Studies. Those are general. So that's kind of my take on that.
Yeah. Furthermore, there's a lot of information out there that literally, it's like, if you look at how to lose weight, it'll all be about eat less and exercise more and cut your calories and all that. And we know from this podcast right now that that's actually quite dangerous advice. Yes. Can cause more long-term damage than actually doing good. So that's why I'm really happy that we're sharing this information here and really spreading this word and stopping these crash diets. And people need to look at it, and especially younger girls, I've seen as well, like they just like, you'll see these girls will just be like, oh, I'm just not going to eat today or something, like, like I want to lose weight, so I'm just going to, and it's like, whoa, hold on. Like, that's not the right approach. You have to this is not an overnight thing here. You're going to cause more long-term damage. So if nothing else, if people at least get that point across, and then people, of course, like you said as well, it's a personalized approach here. There is no one size fits all. That's one thing I've learned from recording almost 200 podcasts now, is that, there's so many different ways to do it. There's this way works for this person and that way works for that person. So having this personalized approach, I think, is really important. So Heather, why don't you tell people a little bit about your program and how you help people? I'm sure many people listening now are like, I want to learn more. I want to, and you can't, there is no, it's not an answer that you can give in a 45-minute podcast in terms of general advice. This is something, like we said, this is personalized. So I'm a big fan of people working with coaches and experts like yourself who can help people get the results that they're looking for. So please share about your program.
Yeah, absolutely. So my program I only work with women over 35 and just mainly repair their metabolism, trying to help really teach them how to do this on your own. And I don't focus on the how, I focus on sharing the data with you. So a typical journey with working with me looks like this. So once you get on the program, we actually sit down a week after you track your food, and like we talked about before, and now we have a benchmark data point. Mm-hmm. And I will walk over through your data with you and explain to you why your body responds in a certain way, and throughout this entire journey. So you understand my business, my company is called HD Body Academy. The reason why I called it Academy is really meant for people to empower themselves, learning what I know, to really truly to be free from all those science and data, and they're trying to grasp everything and it's just not useful to them. This is Academy, learning about your body. What is your threshold is for caloric intake, for macronutrients, for micronutrients, and your brain, capacity and your insulin resistance. Why do you respond this way? Why do you lose weight when you actually eat more? Why do you actually hold weight when you eat less? And all of those individualized things we teach you along the way. So by the end of the program, you actually will be truly free from the next coach, from the next diet. You can maintain, you can reutilize this if you need to for the rest of your life. So that's the goal. Now, if this is something you're looking for, head over to I think the best thing is just keep it simple, one place so you can remember easily. Go on Instagram and find me and search for at Heather Deba. That's HEATHER DEBA. And you find me and you can message me, DM me the word peak. So I know you're, coming from this episode. I will give you a mini course that really allows you to increase that metabolism by 500 calories on your own in the next 2 months or so. Now, that's not the end of the journey for sure. And if you want to really look into working with me possibly, and just go to my link on my bio, there's application for one-on-one coaching. There's other informations that you can look for and research for. I think that's the easiest way to find me.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, I highly encourage people to go and find you there. If someone is not on Instagram, is there a website or somewhere where someone can enter their email as well?
No, you can actually just send me an email at heatherdeba@gmail.com. It's very simple. It's my personal email, and I always respond so it doesn't land into an ocean of emails. Just send me an email, get hold of me. I think a lot of times we're so overwhelmed with the information. I'd rather have that personal, contact and have that personal dialogue with you on the phone for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just to give you some tips and really something you can actually use. Because like I said, everybody's different. I'd rather do that for you than, you dive into the sea again of information and get lost somewhere.
Absolutely. Heather, this has been absolutely amazing. I'm really excited that we got to share this with everyone, and I highly encourage people. It's such a different way of looking from all the generic weight loss advice that you see, people are doing out there. And it's really important, I think. So people need to know that there are other ways, that it's not all just about pain and suffering and, and actually that kind of stuff can be detrimental in the long term. So really grateful for everything that you're doing and all the information you're putting out there, and highly encourage people to go check you out and follow you. And I hope we can do this again sometime.
Yes. And if you're listening, and please share the episode, the more information we share, we can help each other out so we can grow. And if you're listening, and I know Talor has been working so long and editing, and every single episode I've listened to, his episodes are so great. Make sure you give it 5-star review on wherever you're listening to, right? Whether it's Apple, whether it's, Spotify, wherever you're listening to, and give him a 5-star review, and let's spread the word. I really, really hope that this episode helped everyone. And if you like this one, just give him a heads up and thumbs up and great reviews. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate that. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, can you please leave us a rating or review and subscribe? I've realized that while we have actually increased our downloads a lot, we're actually getting a lot of downloads, which I'm really happy about. We actually have very few ratings. And I realized that I've never asked people really to rate much. So I'm asking you now if you could please rate and review and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to anyone that you think will get value out of this. Also, if you haven't checked out our line of products at buypeakperformance.com, you get 20% off your first order. That's www.buypeakperformance.com. We have some incredible products, including our organic high-altitude coffee. If you don't know this, coffee is one of the most heavily sprayed with pesticides out of any crop. So it's really important that you drink organic coffee. We've gone above and beyond to source what we believe is the highest quality and healthiest organic coffee in the world. We're also famous for our organic green superfood powder. You can get 20% off of that as well at buypeakperformance.com. We also have an organic vegan and paleo plant protein. See, most of the vegan proteins out there are using brown rice protein, which is really not a good source of protein, and it's also a grain. And if you're paleo, you know that grains tend to cause inflammation in some cases for some people. And so we wanted to make one that was paleo friendly and vegan and organic. We made an amazing amino acid profile, so it's really one of the best plant proteins for muscle building. So you can check out Peak Performance Organic Plant Protein. You can find that on our website. Of course, all our products are on Amazon as well. So thanks again. And again, please, if you enjoyed the episode, please forward it along to someone who you feel can get value out of it. And please leave us a rating, review, and subscribe. Thank you.